Welcome back to the Street Photography Magazine podcast. I'm Bob Patterson, founder of Street Photography Magazine. And with us today is our publisher, Ashley Refo. So what's going on, Ashley? What do you know?
Howdy. Not too
Howdy.
much.
How yin's doing?
We're doing pretty good.
That's Pennsylvania. You probably don't even know that. That's the Western Pennsylvania version of y'all.
I-
What is
Yeah,
it?
okay.
How do you say it?
Yins.
Yin?
Yins. In Ohio, it's yuns. Yeah, it's a very small dialect in
I'll
our
have to
English
bust that
language.
out if I ever end up on that side.
Pittsburgh. Just if you're in Pittsburgh, you say that, don't think you're a local. Yeah, anyway, in the background, you hear our guest, which is Kai Diaz. He's from Southern California, SoCal guy in the San Diego area. He's a beach guy. He's probably, going to go out and sun his buns later on. And while we're scraping ice and snow off of our driveways after 3 weeks.
And by we, you mean you.
Meaning me, yeah. Well, I'll get some help from another member of the family here. Yeah, that's me. Of course, she's in Jacksonville, so they don't know what snow is. So anyway, yeah, we're gonna talk to Kai. Ashley and he connected and looked at his work. I really like what he's doing. He does some interesting stuff. So we're gonna talk about his work and his life and maybe even coffee. Who knows? Who knows? So Kai, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I was just flattered. I was like, what? No way. This is cool. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk art and photography and life and whatever else you want to talk about. Coffee.
Coffee. Yeah, we'll save that for later. So, yes, Kai he's a graphic designer, I guess, for lack of a better term, as a business, and he's also a photographer, does professional photographer, and obviously a street photographer too. Shoots film, which is cool, and so we'll talk about that. So before we dig into things, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into photography? And how did you divert into street photography as a result of it?
So my name is Kai Diaz, and I'm a photographer and also a designer as well. It's actually something I've been doing for a long time. And I worked in like design agencies. I've worked with other brands. And then in 2017, I decided to start my own studio. So now I run my own creative studio. And then I was always tinkering with photography ever since I was a kid. As far back as I can remember, I grew up in the 90s. So in the 90s, a lot of what I was seeing like on TV, it was like that big MTV era, a lot of music videos. And I grew up skateboarding and surfing. So I would consume a lot of surf and skate magazines and videos. And I ended up being the one that would always film my friends, skateboarding and surfing because I loved it. I was infatuated with cameras and the design of cameras. And when I think about it, I have a huge Peter Pan syndrome where I just never wanted to grow up. So documenting just kind of came natural to me. Like I just wanted to remember everything and look back at it, 10 years from now. Hey boys, like remember this when we did this trick, or remember that time we surfed this spot? And so that's kind of how I got into photography. And then I never really thought about it as like a professional thing. It was more just something that I like to do as, to make art. And seeing these magazines in the surf movies and stuff, subconsciously it was kind of shaping my way of how I compose things. And I remember this, and even before I learned anything technical, I look back and I was like, I was already kind of aware of the rule of thirds and composition because I knew, like, I just subconsciously knew that certain compositions just didn't look that great. So I would make something a little more interesting. And then later when I got into it, I was like, oh, rule of thirds, that's what it's called. I didn't know that. Like, I was already doing that because the movies I was watching, I was just consuming that stuff. So how I started photography, I would say, is it was from that, like just being the documentarian of the crew.
Do you have like a collection of VHSs with like kids skating still somewhere?
Not a lot. And I get sad every time I think about it. I actually should go to my high school to see if they have some of the archive of that. But I wish I did. I only have so many. They're kind of scattered everywhere because, like I said, when I was doing it, I was just doing it for fun, and I never thought I would actually do anything with it. It was just to make something and then show my friends, and then that was it. Like I didn't think like, oh, I'm gonna make a big movie with this later. Some of it is kind of scattered. I have a few select VHS tapes, but I really wish I had the other ones. I should go and hunt them down.
Yeah, you could start building your early days archive.
But I do have a bunch of shoe boxes of um photographs, bunch of them. I'll get random phone calls from old friends, and they're just like, "Hey, do you have that picture from like '97 of like us?" "Yeah, I do. Here, I'll scan it and send it to you." But yeah, so it was that '90s era of just there's just a lot of like really cool visually things happening, especially in the skate and surf world.
So yeah, I saw on your website you shoot primarily film, or maybe you shoot all film, and in a primarily digital age. And I mean, how does I guess the physicality or the limitation of film, you only have 36 shots, and then waiting for it to be developed, and I mean, how does that aspect of photography shape your approach, in choosing your subjects and making your work?
It's I actually prefer it. Um, I I own one digital camera, and that camera's purpose has two things. It's one, so I can scan my negatives, so that's its main job. And then every now and then I'll get a commercial job where they need it instantly, so like
Yeah.
have to shoot it digitally. But like I said, I'm older than you think. Like I actually shot film when I first started. So I'm well aware and used to having the limitations of only having the 36 shots and then having to wait for them to be developed. And looking back, that's actually what excited me. I remember having to go to the photo lab, and they're like, "Oh yeah, our photos are ready." Like, and then you got to go find everybody's printer in the box, and then you got to go find your name. You're like, "Here's my stuff." So I bought my first digital camera, I think, just right after high school, and that to me was kind of like, what? I can see my photos now, and I can shoot hundreds and hundreds of it, and so I was just like, pop, 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 like
Mhm.
and then during that time, I still shot film, but very rarely. And it was those times where I knew I had to be a little bit slower. But now I went back to shooting film and went all in on it because now that I've experienced both, and I tell this to a lot of friends and people in conversation, is like, I love the era that I grew up in because I got to experience the analog days and then the digital switch. So I'm not too old where I don't know how to use digital, and I'm not that young to where I don't know what analog is. So
Yeah.
it was cool that I got to see both. And then now that I experienced both, I missed the tactile experience of film
Yeah.
and the way it looked and the things I had to do and the calculations I had to run through my head when I'm shooting photos with film. Like I just know as soon as I step into the sun, I look at how the sun is bouncing off my skin. I'm like, okay, cool. I know what settings to go. And the fact that film is so expensive now,
Yeah.
now I'm even much more careful, like making sure I get good exposures because I'll be honest, I don't like spending too much time on the computer trying to fix something. I'd rather just have a really good exposure. And then when it converts into a positive, I'm like, yes, that's it. I don't have to touch it. You know, um,
Do you feel like it's mostly about the process for you than film, or do you actually like the results that film gives you better than what you can do with digital?
if I had to prioritize it, it's more the results because I imagine I do love the process though as well. But if I was to choose like what comes first, it's the results. There's just a feeling about it and a look to it that I feel like it's always hard to explain, especially, to someone that doesn't really know. There's some friends that shoot digital or they're not like serious photographers and they're just like, why don't you just apply a filter to this digital photo? And I'm like, it's just yeah,
Sacrilege.
it's just not the same. Like the feeling I get when you see it is just it's unexplainable to me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. When I first saw your work, I go, "Wow, I really like that color." I go, I knew in my head, he must be in Southern California,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's before I knew you were shooting film. So, can you tell us what film you gravitate to?
Right now, I love Kodak Portrait 800.
That's what I thought.
That is,
I thought it was, yeah,
yeah,
800, huh? Yeah.
that's been like my buddy. I know how that stock is gonna react. In any kind of condition, it's trustworthy for me. So when I see something, I already know what it's gonna look like, and not have to be like, well, we'll see. Like we'll see what this stock does. It might be too muddy or it might be overexposed. I don't know. With Porsche 800, man, I could shoot it like midday and it's totally okay. So that's my go-to. And, although you don't see, I do shoot black and white from time to time, and then
Mhm.
I'll use Tri-X 400. That's
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Did it take you a long time to finally settle on those film stocks? A lot of experimentation or just
uh
kinda happened?
yeah, because I feel like I'm such a nerd about photography, and I'm not. I at least don't consider myself a snob about stuff. Like if I see a new film stock, like yeah, I want to try it. I want to see what it does because I like to play. So I do like to kind of experiment with other stuff. But like I said, every time I see my negatives, like not even converted yet, I could just see the density and the negatives of Portrait 800. I already know just from looking at the negs that I'm like, this one's gonna be so good. So if I had to, kind of rate it, it's usually Portrait 800 and then Portrait 400, and then do love Kodak Gold 200. You get really good scans back from Gold. So those are like my three go-to for color. But yeah, I don't think it took a long time. I just knew if I was making serious work, like especially if I'm going out to go shoot some street, always Portrait 800 is loaded up.
I like that you called your street photography serious work too, because, you're a creative guy. You've done tons of creative things. Your day job is creative. For you, why do you think that street photography matters? Why is it serious?
I mean, like I was explaining earlier, like it's just in me to document stuff. Like I imagine and I hope one day that, when someone's flipping through history books that, they happen to see my picture. And I honestly don't think that I need people to know like, oh, that's a Kai Diaz photo. It would just mean a lot to me that someone knows that photo. Like I'm sure there's photos that are in our heads but we just couldn't tell who the photographer was.
Mhm.
Mm.
We know that photo. It's such an iconic image. So for me, it's more of like like to document how living life was at this period of time. That is why it's important to me. It's just like, like with art, it's like, I just hope it resonates with someone and it's not just like a pretty picture. But I think the most important part for me is that it gets put down in history somehow. And then
Yeah.
it's kind of like my way of living forever, like just put it down in history, like forever, like so that it's right there. But yeah, I think that's what's the most important part for me. So I think that's why I love to shoot film, and that's why I print my photos. I don't want it to just be stuck in a hard drive. I want it to be, in people's homes or in history books, galleries, things like that. Like I just want them to be in a physical space and not a digital space.
When I look at your work, I see, uh, I mean, you photograph a lot of, I guess, abandonment and deterioration, but you find beauty in those things, and, that's really what jumped out at me, and I just wondered, when you're standing in front of some decaying structure or forgotten object or, what specifically catches your eye? I mean, how do you find beauty in something that maybe doesn't look all that pretty when you're standing on the street looking at it? Is it the color or the quality of light or something more intangible?
It's hard to explain the way I see it in my mind. It's less about the visual part of it. It's more of like when I see it, I get a feeling of like, I wonder
Mhm.
what that thing went through. I wonder what types of stuff it's seen over the years. I wonder who owned that car that's broken down there. Why is it here? I look inside and I'm like, what kind? So it's the possibilities of the life that it possibly had. And to me, that is the beautiful part. It's not so much the color of the patina and things like that. It's more of I'm just such a curious person, and it's with people too. Like when I see people, I start to develop a story in my mind. Like, oh, I wonder what kind of stuff they went through. I bet that person's seen a lot of things, or how's that scar on that person's face? Like, how did they get that? And so it's less of like a visual beauty. I just find beauty in stories. I just love that stuff. Like my mind just kind of just starts doing all this stuff, and this photography thing is my way of being able to kind of explain that or express it in my own way. And a lot of the times I don't really explain in words what that picture is. I kind of just, like myself, I just let the viewer kind of just make their own little story about it.
Yeah, I like how on Instagram you make like little sets of images, and I like how you've kind of curated those sets because they definitely cause that in the viewer. I think when you look at it, you start imagining stories, not just for one image, but for the whole set. So that's challenging to do, and I admire that about how you've presented it on that platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think, being a designer also kind of helps because it's visual storytelling, and
Mhm.
I love movies and things like that. I'm also into, like kind of like psychological thriller type films where it's like
Mhm.
the ending is ambiguous and it's kind of like, well, what do you think happened?
Disorienting.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
kind of like, do you think they did it or did they not? Or was it a dream or was it real? Like
Hmm.
they just kind of leave it like that, right? So that I get kind of inspiration from that, and from what I've seen from some of my favorite photographers, sometimes they just show you the stuff and you take it how it is, and you can make your own little story about it.
Yeah, I think we can learn a lot from movies, as photographers. So what are some of your favorite movies that have most, affected your photography or most influenced you? Anything come to
Oh
mind?
man. Uh, I would say right now anything Christopher Nolan makes, he's just a genius. And then obviously the obvious ones, like Spielberg and Christopher Nolan, what's his face? I'm blanking all the names now. Tim Burton,
Yeah.
Kubrick, of course, all of those classics, the cliche classics directors, they're just awesome. Sophia
Hitchcock?
Coppola.
Sometimes you forget, like I just watched ET the other day. It's been
Huh.
like years since I watched ET, but I was like, I have a 3-year-old. I was like, "Well, let's watch ET."
Yeah,
Oh
that's
And
yeah,
good
as I'm
for him.
watching it, I'm like, oh my gosh, the filmmaking is amazing. Like my
yeah,
son was scared. He was pretty scared of it actually. I was like, oh, it's too early. But but I was
yeah.
like, this is so good.
It it's pretty crazy. Like, I've been watching a lot of documentaries on these directors, and it's really interesting to hear them talk about when they're making those movies and their techniques and the angles that they use and to get a certain feeling. I'm like, man, these guys are so good because they don't have to explain anything to you. It's just they show it to
Mhm.
you, and the feeling that they wanted you to have, you totally.
Mm-hmm.
Spielberg is great at that. Scorsese is great at that. And again, when I'd watch these films, it wasn't something that I was like, "Ooh, I want to use that in my photography." It was just like I was just consuming it, and it was
Mm.
just building the way I see the world. But yeah, I would say like films are it's a heavy influence on pretty much everything I do, not just photography. Even with like graphic design Even when I make those videos, on Instagram and stuff, it's a lot of it is inspired by
Mm.
a lot of the films that I watch.
Yeah, it's almost subliminal when you're watching these movies and consuming other content, and in the background, your mind is just crunching away on it and affecting your vision or your style or whatever in the background, and it's not even you're not even aware of it.
No, no. I think that's where what makes it great, where it's like, again, they don't have to explain anything to you, and it's just like, whoa, like that's why I got that feeling. It's because they did this, the timing and the rhythm of the music and how they switch like it's I'm a huge nerd about it. I kind of wish I went to film school, but I
I
know that.
think you would have enjoyed that.
Yeah,
You would have done well there.
thank you.
Yeah, I feel like, in the 90s too, just everything was slower.
Mm.
So you had these beautiful films and you had time to like digest them as you watch them, and the visuals, now everything's so fast and people are bored so quickly. Um, it's harder to get that kind of education just from watching, I feel like,
Oh
these
yeah.
days.
I mean, back in the day, it's like you rent a movie, a VHS tape, and you go to Blockbuster or wherever it is you got your tape from, and you maybe have two movies. You took the time to watch those things because you had to
Mhm.
return it, like,
Yeah, that's true.
and then, but now it's like, Netflix and stuff. I mean, I watch Netflix a lot, but it's like if you're not into it within the first 15 minutes, next,
Yep.
like,
Mhm.
I'll watch it some
next?
other time. Yeah.
Yeah. So the attention span and I think the appreciation for the art is lost a little bit in that because it's so easy to just go watch something else, you know.
Mhm.
But like back in the day, hey, if you got a bad movie, you still had to watch that thing.
You
That's
weren't
right.
stopping it. You
You
paid
paid
your
for it.
whatever, your $2.99 to take that
Yeah.
thing home.
Yep. Yep. So, but yeah,
Uh,
it's I don't want to sound like that guy, but man, it was a great
you're
time.
that guy.
And I didn't know it at the time, but in my day, uh, yeah,
You wore rags on our feet when we walked to the beach.
yeah. But the
Yeah.
interesting thing is, I have nieces and nephews that are, Gen Z and younger, and I feel like they're longing for that. They're longing
Mhm.
for how it used to be because they didn't get to experience it. It's totally new to them. They're just like, "What? VHS tape? Like,
What's that?
yeah." But they're into it. They're just like, and they're asking me, "Hey, uncle, do you still have like, that old camera or do you still have that like camcorder they used to use to like film your friends surfing?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Here, you can have it. Go play with it." But they do long for that nostalgia and slowing down, So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I never thought about that. But
mhm.
the good old days of the 90s.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I mean,
I d
it's like when I was in high school, the '70s was cool. It was like everyone was wearing like the bell-bottom
The
pants.
bell bottoms.
It's still
Yeah, and
cool.
the music we listened to was all from like the '70s and '60s, like, a lot of that rock. And then so now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, in the present time, to them, the '90s was that time, 1900s is how they say it, and I'm just like, wow, that's so crazy to think that, to them that's their vintage is the '90s.
Everybody always has nostalgia for the period of time when they were about 18 years old.
Mhm,
That's when you're coming out on your own and,
mhm,
you know, you're able to, have your own place or you're in college
mhm.
doing whatever you want and staying out late and just, so those always seem like the best times. For me, it was a little bit before the 90s. It was probably like the early 70s. My wife even yells at me. She goes, "You don't know any music that was made after 1975."
Well, a lot of good music was made during those times, so
Especially in Southern California.
yeah, but my
And,
my 2 older brothers, they're a good amount of age, over me. So when I was growing up, I had the privilege to listen to what they were listening to. So
mhm.
a lot of the genres and eras of music that I listen to is very wide. Like, anything from what's new now all the way down to like the early Beatles,
Wow.
when they first came out. because my brother was a huge Beatles nerd, an Elvis nerd. And then they grew up in the 80s, so I was listening to Cyndi Lauper, Depeche Mode, The Cure, everything. I was little during that time, but it was just like in my brain because that's what music they had on. And then also the music videos that they would watch,
Mm.
all the Billy Idol music videos, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, all that stuff. It was just going into my brain. And then little do I know, actually, now that I'm talking about it now, that's kind of what shaped my curiosity for making stuff.
Yes. So where'd you grow up? In the San Diego area or
Well,
somewhere
so
else?
my two older brothers were born back in Hawaii, so my family was in
Oh,
Hawaii, and then the family moved here to San Diego, then I was born. And then shortly after I was born, went back to Hawaii. And then they wanted me to go to high school here on the mainland. So we came back. So it was a lot of back and forth between San Diego and
wow.
Hawaii. But I was born here in San Diego.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that
You
must have been.
ever get back out to Hawaii and do photography there?
But yeah, the thing is though, anytime I go back to Hawaii, I'm just chilling. Like I don't know if you've been there. I mean, you're in Florida, so you
Yeah.
know the feeling. It's like it's too hot and muggy. You're just kind of just like
Mm.
I want to just relax and just like, eat food. I always gain weight anytime I go back to Hawaii because that's what we do. Like my friends and family, we just eat and drink beer and just hang out. And I'll surf like sometimes, but a lot of the times we're just cruising. But I used to make it out there at least once or twice a year. Because after high school, I actually went back and lived there for a few years. And then one of my friends here offered me a job, and I wasn't really doing anything back there. So I was like, yeah, I'll come back. So yeah, I go back every once in a while. And then I'd say like once or twice a year, I'll go back to the Big Island though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm
That's where your
originally
family's from?
well, I'm originally from Oahu, but I have cousins on the Big Island, and the stuff we do there is like much more fun for me. So we'll go surf, fish, hunt, all that stuff and hike. Back in Oahu, it's like I don't really get to do that very much, and it's so crowded there now. So,
I know it's bad for you, but I love that pork
mm,
that they have.
yep, yep. In moderation.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
You
Anything
in
in
just got to surf it
moderation.
off, Bob.
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
all.
that's usually what I do.
yeah,
Wash it down with a beer and surf it off. You're good.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, well, the
Moderation.
waves aren't too big in the Chesapeake Bay, but
Yeah, moderation's fine. Yeah.
That's
Well,
really
well.
cool.
Hey, why don't you tell us about, talk about Echoes of the Unseen.
Yeah. So I
I,
have it ready for you.
aha.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's big, Kai.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
picture it being so big. Is it,
yeah. So
is it
the
available now?
no, I wish this is the one and only proof copy. It's about I think it's 250 pages long, featuring
Wow.
200 photos. So the story behind this is my good friend Marcelo. He's an amazing designer. I look up to him, and he grew up in Brazil and grew up in a very like artistic family. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's traveled all over the world, seen lots of art. His mom, rest in peace, she's an amazing artist and is very well known in the state that they live in, Bahia in Brazil. And he secretly, I guess, this is what he told me, he secretly was a big fan of my photography. And at the
Oh,
time, I wasn't really showing anything. Everything was just I was just doing it, and the negatives and the photos are just piling up. I didn't even show it on Instagram or anything. I would just, text him or send him some of my photos. And then eventually one day he goes, hey, what are you doing with all these photos? And what's your goal with them? I'm like, I don't know. I love taking photos and making photos. I don't really know what I'm going to do with them. And he's like, you really got to show this stuff. He's like, this is what he told me. He's like, I'm not just telling you this because you're my friend, but I really do think there's some strong stuff here. And I think artistically speaking, you should be showing this stuff. And I
he's
was like,
right.
oh, thank you. I was like, well, how do I do that? He's like, you should make a book. And I was like, really? And I was like, why? My photography is so all over the place. And I don't really have a theme. I don't have a thing that like I obsessively take a picture of and I just, shoot that for 5 years. So what he said was he's like, and again, he's a designer and he's designed many books. And he's like, give me your most favorite photos from the past 5 years and I will find a theme for you. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay. So I went through my stuff. I selected from 2019 to 24 my favorite photos, and it came up to about 500 images. And
Wow.
then I spent the money to go have them printed because I know it'll be easier to sequence it when you have them printed. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
that costs a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah.
And
How big did you make them?
they're just 5x7s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
Still, it's a lot of photos.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
so it's a big, big stack. And so it's 500 photos and had him printed out, gave him the photos. I was like, okay, you asked for it. Here you go. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, I got it. He's like,
Hmm.
come check it out. And I was like, okay. And I tell you what, the reason why sequencing is very important, especially in what I'm showing in the digital space. After he put the stuff together, it felt like I was seeing my photos for the first time because he paired
Yeah.
photos that I never would have thought to pair. And he was like, yeah, I put this one next to this one because it would make a good sequence. So anyway, he's like, cool, let's design this thing. So he designed it within 2.5 weeks and we ended up
Wow.
not finding one theme. He's like, your stuff is kind of all over the place, but what we'll do is we'll make them in chapters. This chapter will be, like things that look very minimal. And then this chapter is going to be something that's like more street and have people in it. And then this chapter is like about, you know, transportation because there's like a lot of cars and trains and bikes and things like that. So that's why it's so thick. So we made one copy just so we could see how it feels and how it feels when we flip through it and the type of paper and everything. And then we came up with the title Echoes of the Unseen because he also found in my work that even though the themes are different, there's one underlying concept with them that he found is that he said you seem to be interested in things that people are just overlooking, things
Mm-hmm.
that, people walk by every day and they're so used to it and they're just immune to that thing. But somehow you stop and you like give that thing some attention, whatever it may be, either if it's a thing or a person, you stop and you give it that attention. So we came up with the title Echoes of the Unseen because he thinks that I have a knack for just seeing things that most people would just overlook.
I love that. That's sounds like it was so important for you too to just have somebody else,
Yeah.
get involved and look at your photos and
Oh,
tell you what they saw.
I think, I highly recommend that to anyone that's thinking about making a book is to just have a trusted eye look over it for you and help you design it because it's too close to me and for me to figure out that theme or that concept I just don't think it would have ever happened because I would just be too critical of myself. No, this is dumb, this doesn't look good,
Yeah.
even makes
Mhm.
I don't even like this picture. Like, why should I put this? So it was good to have someone else kind of look at it and then represent it back to me. And I was just like I got teary eyed after he showed to me. I was like, Marcelo, like, you don't understand. It this almost looks like I'm seeing it for the first time. This is
Mm.
crazy. So I highly recommend, if you're thinking about making a book, just have someone help you. There's no shame in getting help, you know. So, but yeah, so the reason why we don't have this thing published is because, I don't have any published books. So we were kind of learning on how to find a publisher. So we try to contact all the Southern California publishers and we didn't really hear back. And I wasn't like hurt or anything like that. I'm like, I get it. I'm kind of new to the art scene. Like, I don't really have a name for myself, so it's gonna be difficult to find someone to like spend their money on, making a book. So we ended up deciding that I was just going to self-publish, but obviously to self-publish, it's a lot of dough to like get some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This cost me $300 just to make one.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And then to make like 500 to 1,000, that's going to cost some money. But the cool thing about this book is the Leica store in LA saw that I posted this on my Instagram. They reached out like immediately. They're just like, wait, you have a book? And I was like, well, I'm trying to have a book. Like I have one. And they're like, can you come by here and show it to us? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I met with the guys that were in charge of ordering the books and getting the books into the store. And I
Mm-hmm.
showed it to them. They loved it. And they're just like, as soon as you have some in production, bring some over here and we'll sell them here at the store. And I was like,
Nice.
are you serious? I was like, no way. And so fast forward, and what you're seeing now recently is I was sitting on a stack of 500 5x7 photos for a few years now because I've been trying to raise funds to get this thing going. And then I had this idea. I was like, why don't I sell those 5x7 prints? Because they're just collecting dust and they're literally
Yeah.
one of one. Like, so I had this idea. I'm like, I'm just gonna do a weekly drop where I'm choosing a sequence of 5 photos that I feel like is a good set. They're all used to help sequence this book, so it kind of makes it a special edition.
It's a collector's item.
Yeah, it's a very good
so
idea.
I'm on week number 4 now of,
I
dropping.
saw you packing prints on Instagram. I was wondering
Yeah.
what you were doing. I was
Yeah.
like, hey, where do you see these prints?
Yeah, and they're doing good so far. So I'm selling them as a one of one. They're all numbered and signed. It's all printed on archival paper, RA4 printed, and I don't plan on printing these at that size ever again. So they're a truly like one of one. And the exciting part about it, from an outsider's point of view, is like you don't know what I'm gonna drop like in the next week. So it could just be like, I don't like that set. I don't like that set. And then maybe one day something will resonate and you're like, I gotta have that one. So it's kind of have to like pay attention and like, but yeah, so and it's fun for me because every week I have to go through these photos every time, all 500 of them. Well, not 500 anymore, but I have to go through them and just be like, okay, what am I gonna do now? And then just this one, because Valentine's Day is coming up, and I noticed when I was flipping through them, I was like, there's a lot of flower photos. So I'm like, why don't I drop this for Valentine's Day? So last night I made a quick little video to drop the Valentine's Day photos. Yeah, so that is the story of Echoes of the Unseen. And it actually, there's a chance the title might change, but we'll see. We'll see. And it might be a tiny bit thinner just for cost wise, because we're really trying to get these things in production. And the only way to do that is to cut it down a little bit and then maybe select a paper that isn't so premium and expensive.
The paper makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does. My friend and designer, Marcelo, he's the one that he's like, okay, but we got to think about this. Like, if you need it printed, we really got to cut the cost down. He's like, I know you want that paper. I'm like, I can't lose the paper, Marcelo. Like, I love paper. And he's like, I was like, I'll just try to cut it down a little more, So hopefully soon. My goal is this year. So a lot of the funds that I'm making or getting back from selling the 5x7s is gonna go directly to this. And then I'm hoping that maybe my sponsors will want to help pitch in and get this thing published.
Have you given any thought to doing print on demand?
Yeah, I have. I kind of wanted to, much like the photos and the prints, I almost prefer to just have, like if I print like 250 and that would be like the first batch, I'd rather
Yeah.
just do it like that, where it's more of like, hey, I'm printing 300, like they're
Mhm.
here, you can get them now, versus kind of like a print on demand kind of deal. So I'd rather have them like an addition.
Yeah, we struggled. We did a book last year, Bob? Year before?
Yeah, last year.
I can't
Yeah, a
remember.
year
Last year.
ago.
And we struggled with that too, because it's like print on demand is so convenient and low cost, but it just doesn't feel like artisan, It just
Yeah.
And then you don't know about consistency of the prints, and
Yeah,
I mean, who would ever compare them? But, there's a chance somebody in California gets something that looks totally different from what somebody ordered in New York.
yeah,
So, yeah, there's
Yeah,
a lot
there's
of factors.
I think, as artists, we kind of value the rarity of something, So like even for me, it's like if I buy someone's book or, painting or whatever, I'd much rather have the one where, hey, I only made 100 of these. I'm like, okay, I want one of
Mhm.
those. I don't want like, a print that someone made that the artist didn't even get to touch that print. So there's that thing of like they like signed it, they touched this thing. Like I don't know. I just get excited and I'm like a huge nerd about that kind of stuff. So I kind of like prefer it to where, if I order 250 books, I physically touched those books and signed it and there you go. So and I think that's what makes this 5x7 limited edition drop so special is because I'm kind of like giving a piece of my process and just letting them have a second life wherever they go. And it was a direct, if a story is ever gonna be made about me, like that would be kind of cool. It's like, hey, I have one of these pictures that was made to help sequence this book, his first book that he ever publicly put out there. So
It
again,
is really special. Like we
yeah,
printed out the photos that we put to sequence them for our
yeah,
book, and I still have the stack of photos, and
me too.
I don't know, I feel like attached to them. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
weird, but
totally.
it's a big part of the process.
That's probably why I didn't even think about selling them for a few years because I wanted them. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, just like how my friend Marcelo said, he's like, you should share this stuff. And I was like, okay. So I think at that point, I was okay in just releasing them. It actually kind of felt good to give them a second life and give them a life outside of my archive in my closet, just sitting in the dark. So it'll be nice for someone to hold on to that and put it in a frame or whatever they want to do with
Mhm.
it and display it somewhere. Like that to me sounds like a better life for
Mm.
those photos than in my closet.
Fits with your goals that you were talking about before, Kai, that you just want to leave a record of history. Like this is the way to get it in someone else's house. Maybe that becomes something they pass down to their kids, to their grandkids.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going to live on that way.
totally. I think, a lot of this stuff is like it's weird to hear me talk about it because I don't talk a lot. I'm naturally actually very shy. And when I say it out loud, it just makes me like realize I'm like, oh, that's why I do that, because a lot of the stuff I do, I just do it. Like there's no like other intention. But yeah, like I take such pride and I feel so honored when someone wants to put one of my pictures into their home. I'm just like, wow, what an honor that you would want to see this thing every day in your home or in your office on your desk. Like, what an honor. So it was tough for me to, especially when it was like friends or family or other artists that I look up to and they want one of my prints and they want to buy it. My initial reaction is like, no, I just want to give it to you. You don't have to give me money. I just want you to have it because to me it's like what an honor. You want
Hmm.
my work and you're a brilliant artist also like wow. And they're just like, no dude, that's not how it works. Like take this money, you need this money to make more work. Like, understand, okay, like we want to
Quit
support what
being
you're
a starving artist.
Yeah,
yes.
that's right.
and
Go buy
and then
yourself a Whataburger.
yeah, so like I learned a lot from that, just I had to kind of see it in a different way. Like because before I was seeing a perspective of like I'm taking their money or I'm like I'm selling this stuff or like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, dude, how much is film? How much is it to process? How much was that camera that you bought? How much was that lens that you bought, that Leica lens? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. How much was it to travel to Africa and Brazil and this? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Dude, you got to take that money so you can make more stuff. And I was like, okay, now if you put it that way, I understand now. So now I'm kind of learning the business aspect of it and how to like make what I do sustainable and not see it as like being greedy or like taking people's money. It's
Or
more
being like work, and then you lose the joy of it. It's
Yeah.
hard to strike that balance.
Yeah, and I think that's why I didn't wanna do it professionally in the first place, you know?
Mm.
I got a lot of offers like, "Hey, if you come and take pictures of this, not like, how much is it?" And I'm like, "I don't wanna do that." Like, I like, "Can you come shoot my wedding?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." Like, I'll shoot it for free and you just get whatever I get, like, you can't complain, and then that can be my wedding gift to you. But I just have a lot of respect for wedding photographers. It's like you get one shot, maybe. You get one shot to, like, get that right, and if you don't get it right, like, I would feel bad to take that money. I'm like, "I'll just do it for free, and then you could just have the photos, and you'll just have to see it from my point of view of what was interesting to me in your wedding, but I'm not gonna sit there and do all the formula, like, you know what I mean? Like, the formula of, like, the stuff you gotta get for the wedding."
Ring, kiss, and vows.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
so
don't do the group shots.
oh, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, they look fun. It's the pressure that I don't like.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not I'm not, like, being a snob about, like, "Oh, I don't do weddings," or it's more of like, "Yo, like, hopefully you only do this one time, and I don't wanna mess it up. Please just
I feel the same way, Kai. My husband is like, he does weddings and I'm usually the second shooter, but it stresses me out. And I'm not even like, the pressure's not even on me. I get to do my documentary thing in the background, but I get stressed because I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't
But
want
the
to mess this up. This is a one time thing.
That's the thing about professional wedding photographers, though, is like I'm sure there's some kind of stress, but they've done it so many times and they know how to do that. So I actually love being a second shooter because it's kind of like just get what you
Hmm.
get. And I'm like, awesome. Like there's no like
I have
direction.
to repeat that to myself every time. You're the second shooter. It's not on
Y-
you. It's not on you.
Yeah, yeah,
Just have fun. Just take
yeah.
pictures.
Yep. 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 And then sometimes the stuff the second shooter gets is usually the one that's like, hey, I love that photo. I love that
Hmm.
photo of the drunk uncle like having the time of his life over there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you get like the real stuff. So but yeah, I I tend to not shoot weddings just because I don't like the pressure.
I feel ya. It's too much.
Oh, even, because people like my style of, like, candid photos, I've been asked so many times for engagement photos where I gotta hide and pretend like I don't know them and shoot that photo. That is so nerve-wracking. I'm like, This is literally one time, and if they say yes, like, it's gonna happen within seconds, and you can't, like you know what I mean? It's not like a hour-long session. It's
Right. And
gonna
if you don't
happen.
know that person well, you might not anticipate their moves, you know?
Yeah, yeah, but luckily I did it because it's, like, one of those things where I'm like, "Well, I gotta try it at least, like, once," you know? And I ended up doing, like, I think, like, 3
Wow.
engagements? Yeah.
Do you set up the agreement like if she says no, I'm just gonna like fade into the crowd. You'll never see me again.
I usually wait, but I'm like, "He's gonna say yes," like, I can tell by the body language, but, yeah, I don't like the pressure of that, especially when it's, like, someone's, like, special moment, like, it's not even mine, it's, like, their special moment. I'm like, "Man, I don't wanna
Hmm.
screw this up."
Yeah.
Well, Kai, per usual, before we go, please tell everybody where they can see more of your work and learn more about you.
Oh, yeah, of course, the social media handles is just at Kai Diaz, on Instagram.
Spell Kai.
It's at Kai Diaz, KaiDiaz. And then a lot of my work is on kaidiaz.com, also KaiDiaz.com. That's where a lot of my work lives. Trying to think if there's anything else. No, that's pretty much it.
Th-
Those are the two digital avenues where people could see my work, and then hopefully I will have this book published, and more than most likely, the first place it'll be is at the Leica store in LA.
Okay. Keep us posted because if you get some copies, we can send it out in our newsletter or something to let
Oh
people know.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Hopefully soon. Just trying to figure out the funds on that.
Well, you'll make it work. It looks really good.
Mhm.
Looks great on your website.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
So I'm sure the real thing will blow people away.
thank you.